All right. Thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. My name is Tyler Jones, and I'm a junior international affairs major from Richmond, Virginia, and I have the honor of being the current president for the Black Student Alliance. And tonight I have the pleasure of hosting this week's Tuesday Night Live with the amazing Kyel Towler.
Hello, everybody listening to this via Facebook Live, or not listening, watching, listening, both of those things. My name is Kyel Towler. I also go by the alias of Kyel with the style, like Tyler mentioned. I also go by Kyel, KyLOL. I'm going to stop there. And I am a rising senior here at JMU, majoring in communication studies with minor in human resource development, and I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia.
All right, and just about before we want to continue, I just wanted to open the floor and allow for Sierra Ballinger to host her segment of ¿Sabías qué?
Yes, thank you, Ty and Kyel. So for tonight's ¿Sabías qué?, I wanted to celebrate the accomplishments of Harriet Tubman, since she has been in the news a little bit more lately from someone saying some things about her that aren't true. So I just wanted to give her the respect that she deserves. So I'm going to read some facts about her that I find very interesting and cool. So, ¿Sabías qué? That Harriet Tubman suffered from narcolepsy as a result of a head injury. She would often go into sleeping spells and was difficult to wake. She considered the dreams that she had during these spells to be religious visions, and her religiosity was a guiding reason to helping enslaved Africans escape. ¿Sabías qué? That Harriet Tubman had a 100% success rate, and the estimate of enslaved people she helped to freedom was as high as 3,000 people. She was out there doing big things. ¿Sabías qué? That Harriet Tubman was actually the first woman to lead a combat assault. Under the command of Colonel James Montgomery, Harriet Tubman led 150 Black Union troops across the Combahee River in South Carolina in June of 1863. Using information from escaped slaves, she led Union riverboats through Confederate torpedo traps, freeing 750 enslaved people and dropping off Union troops. The troops that she was in burned the estates of influential Southern secessionists and supplied Confederate forces, and she didn't lose a single troop member. And last but certainly not least about Miss Harriet Tubman, ¿Sabías qué? That Harriet Tubman, she actually had brain surgery to fix her sleep problems, but she refused anesthesia. And instead of anesthesia, she opted to chew on a bullet, just like Civil War soldiers did when they had a limb amputated while she was having brain surgery. So that is what I have for Miss Harriet Tubman for ¿Sabías qué? Now back over to you, Ty.
Wow, thank you, Sierra, for that enlightenment. That last one I definitely did not know about. I knew about the narcolepsy, but I did not know about that. That's strong Black women, I tell you. But now that we've all had the chance to introduce ourselves and learn a little bit more about Harriet Tubman, what I want you all to get out of this talk today is to hopefully inspire the drive to make a change for the better for yourself and for your community and others. There's one of the things I've learned, especially with everything going on now, is that there's nothing that says that we have to live with the way things are and what we are upset with, and the way that our country is run, and the experience that minority students go through on this campus. And that's just not the case. And you as students hold the power to be the change. And it's the job of faculty, staff, senior admin to support us and create a safe environment to allow for that change and for creating a better environment for current students as well as those that come from behind us.
And to that, actually, before I even begin that, I'm going to have to forgive my language, but Harriet Tubman is just flat out a badass, and it's definitely an inspiration. But to what you had just said, um, uh, when it comes to like individual activism and you know wanting to lead and be the change, it starts with one's own person. That's where it starts, because if you truly care about change, you truly care about about a just world, then you're going to fight for that. Um, and I love to see it from every single person here at JMU. Love to see it from every single Duke saying, yeah, whatever's happening is messed up, so let's fix that. Um, and with making change and whatnot, that it has to be true and authentic to one's core. It 100% has to be. And so, if I see someone down on the ground, I'm gonna reach out my hand to help pick them up, because they're on the ground because they've been kicked down by oppression. They've been kicked down by racism, whatever it may be. So if you want to be the change, you got to reach your hand out.
Definitely, I agree with that. And just to make an announcement, if any of you have any questions or comments during, feel free to utilize the chat, as well as using the raise your hand if you would like to speak or interject at any moment. So just to continue, I just had a few questions for Kyel. And I wanted to start off with asking you, why is it important for students to be at the table during important matters that concern them and the university?
Well, that question, I actually believe in something else entirely different. If we're going to be talking about issues about students, then the table needs to be brought to the students. Not saying the students come to the table, because we're talking about something that affects them. So why don't we go to them to see how it affects them, rather than going the opposite direction? If you have top-down processing, where if I'm a student, I have to go through all these layers of admin, etc., to actually be heard. That we're making decisions the wrong way. If the decision is going to be made, communities ought to be consulted first, because it shows that you truly care if you think to, hey, let me consider you in part of this process. If you're going to consider me, that's how I know you. That's how I know you actually stand with me, 100%, no doubt.
Okay.
So if I have to, go out and build my own chair, then that shows that, hey, I can do that myself, but also is that I'm going to have to do it myself. And that's a terrible narrative to create, especially for a university. If you're going to be doing things for students, then do things for students, not don't have students do things for you.
Wow, I agree with that. And just in terms of, so do you think that, I know a popular term that we tend to hear are, we just need to have town halls and we need to have task force. Do you what are your feelings?
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have laughed before you finished the question. If you know me, then you know that I am not necessarily for a task force or a town hall, because what happens after you have a town hall? You have another town hall, and then another town hall, and then you have another town hall, and then you just keep rehashing the same issues over and over again, rather than the issues being handled. And it's a lot easier just to say, hey, let's just get this decision done right here. It's really easy to do. It's really easy to say, okay, what things at our university perpetuate racism? It's really easy to go and say, oh, this perpetuates racism? Well, let's not do that anymore, and let's see something that can actually benefit our students rather than hurt our students. And with task force typically, they'll be for an entire semester, and I'm not asking to spend my time at a university being on a task force. I came to the university for very different reasons. If you told a freshman Kyel that he was going to be on a task force, Kyel wouldn't be too happy because he was going to be coming here for whatever freshman Kyel was here for. Honestly, I don't even really know what he's coming for, but that's besides the point. With all these different things, it just slows the change that can happen immediately. And so, having climate surveys and all of these different things, it's real cute, and it looks like change is being done, but is change really being done? Because if you wanted to make change, then you would just make it. That's as easy as it is. And you would go to the community that it afflicts and say, "Hey, how does this afflicting your community? How can I help your community?" Rather than saying, "Okay, be patient." I mean, these communities have been patient for hundreds of years.
Right. That's definitely not the word used, is to have patience or tell anybody to be patient about something like this. And especially calling for change on a campus that we pay money to attend to. And it's tough because it's kind of seeing like town halls as a way of like saying that we attempted to help the problem, but we aren't actually, we're gradually, gonna get there. We're gonna get there. These things take time, or this, that, and the third. But do you think what do you think are ways that JMU can do to escape from its path of gradualism and gradualistic change?
Oh, the first one is be upfront and honest with students more than anything. That should be 100% a goal in mind more than anything. And specifically with the for example, the can't think what it was called, the Board of Visitors meeting, and that was supposed to be made available for students because it was a being made, right? And so as higher ed, is the higher ed's responsibility to be able to create that pathway for students, for them to be able to understand what decisions are being made at the university, right? The fact that students didn't have that readily available to them is an injustice towards students. And the fact that it was talking about two things that are critical to students specifically, with the namesakes of halls being changed, that's something critical to students, because students have been fighting for that for 2+ years. And then the second thing is with the coronavirus protocol, that's critical to students. Students need to know that. But the link was only put out. I might be incorrect saying this, but it was only within the day before, the 2 days before. If this is going to be affecting students, the people who need to know about this more than anybody is students. And so being able to, that gap needs to be addressed. That gap needs to be filled so that we don't have this anymore. The ball was dropped, but that doesn't mean the ball has to stay dropped.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. And just in terms of to add on to, during these times, I think higher ed is definitely it's in a whirlwind, because, I don't think anybody planned for a global pandemic for this year or anything affecting that, but just in the terms of considering that we're the ones in the classrooms and we're the ones in going to our teachers and being on this campus. And it's like, I personally didn't receive any type of like communication in terms of student input on whether or not going back was, or how anybody felt about that, especially with, if they did, I think it might have been at the beginning, but just a lot has progressed definitely since then. So it's like, it's no secret that like lately students' feelings towards, this online versus in person is definitely just scary, in the sense of the unknown and the fear of like what could to come.
Oh yeah, it's terrifying. Like I know, and it's especially more terrifying now for a lot of students, because also with the CDC, they don't have 100% access to the anymore, and that makes me, as a student, that makes me more nervous about what it's going to be like in a month from now, what is 2 months from now? That's not reliable data, and because it has not been a reliable administration, and that's something that you can't really negotiate or be able to compromise about. That's a fact. And so now us as coming back to the university, I mean, us JMU students, we're coming back to the university, as if that makes sense. When there's going to be an increase of an outbreak, there's more potential risk, and so now it makes me wonder. And this is getting a little more political, so you're going to have to bear with me. But it's like, do we care more about health and potential death, or do we care more about sustainability and jobs and money? And granted, like it's not a decision that you can just make a snap of your finger with, but I think the risk outweigh the potential. 100%. I'm going to me personally, I'm going to value students' health, faculty's health, everybody's health before anything, especially if this is causing long-term respiratory damage and also death that disproportionately affects Black people. And as a university that says they're going to stand with us, then stand with us. And that includes Corona. Because if us as Black people are disproportionately affected, then honestly, Black people don't need to be going to JMU. 100% honest. While there's where there's coronavirus.
That's exactly. It's just taking the proper precautions because, like as you said, Black people are more disproportionately disadvantaged towards the coronavirus, and the severity of the effects of whether you survive Corona or not, you still affects your respiratory system and just your overall health afterwards. And I think it just all goes back towards, having including students in the conversation with the statues and the name of the halls. That whole process in terms of the involvement from student org leaders and students, this process has been going on. And then in terms of the fact that there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of behind the scenes that like we aren't in terms of this process and what's supposed to be going on. And but yeah, just in terms of inviting students to that table and valuing their voices, because these experiences are valid, these feelings are valid. Yeah.
You're gonna have to give me a quick second. I realized that I was using natural sunlight, and that natural sunlight is starting to dim, so I gotta rearrange my light. But I think everything is true. Like, if we're going to be having students be valued at the university, how the question isn't what do students need to sacrifice in order for the university to be able to sustain itself, but how do you us as a university be able to meet student needs without having them have to sacrifice? That needs to be the goal more than anything. And I'm a student. I don't know that answer. If we're gonna be, I don't know what that looks like right off bat. But if you truly value, student opinion, student health, then as a university, you're gonna make that work more than anything else.
Definitely. And just another question, in terms of, this was from a question from Facebook asking, how are Black people affected more than others by COVID? I imagine there's some more drastic impacts, but can you talk through them?
Oh yeah. So I am not a health professional. I would like to start off by saying that. And also in no way do I know everything about the Black community. But one thing that I am certain of is Black people are already disproportionately affected in the healthcare system. So with coronavirus, that's not going to necessarily be helping Black people to begin with. And also a lot of people that you see coming in dealing with coronavirus. A lot of folks that are of color are essential workers, are out here working and whatnot, and are at risk because they're out here more engaging, literally being outside. And as all the memes show, being outside is dangerous. And it's not necessarily something people can 100% avoid as easily as any other, not as white people in particular. It's and a lot of students at JMU, a lot of particularly Black students at JMU, do work. I know a lot of my friends are essential workers in some sort of capacity. They have jobs where they have to go out and actually talk face to face with people, and that's not going to necessarily change when they come to JMU. And so, how as a university do you help those students who are already dealing with disadvantages in society? That's a question for JMU. How having students come back to campus doesn't help with those societal disadvantages.
Okay.
Society's against you is already difficult enough, but your university is as well. That's that's a worse truth to bear as well.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's a sensitive or a difficult time as well for student org leaders in terms of having to consider our members as well, whether or not for general body meetings or events and stuff like that. Of course we want to see, we want to have our meetings, we want to see you, and I think it's a lot of them are going to have to adjust as well to being online and utilizing Zoom and Google Hangout, but this is definitely a time where we have to adjust as well. And we, I know personally, just the thought of putting members at potential risk, in a group meeting setting, it just has been on my mind as I've, gone about planning for this year, and in terms of planning for events as well. The unknown, we're in person now, but fall time is a very sensitive time for allergies and sickness as well. So it's like, we won't know until we all get here, and then
super exciting.
Right, yeah. And I think for as well, just during these times, the environment of this country and society, it's putting a lot of pressure on those in power, and it's finding a time where students like us are finding our voices and realizing the impact of our voices. And I think it's also where, being like leaders on campus as well, it's kind of where you have to be there for, your members and those that you represent. And I think a lot of the times, if students are invited to the conversation, it's kind of utilized through those leaders and not, students outside of that, if that makes sense. I don't want to say normal students, but I just want students.
Oh yeah, I followed that. Like one of the things specifically like with even with BSA, and this is really tangential, but during my presidency, I didn't talk to upper admin like that. My focus was particularly with the community because as a Black student leader, I knew for a fact me becoming president was going to be I'm trying to figure out the best adjective. Was going to be a very sort of strenuous process, and that was because I knew for a fact that when I did become president, if I tried to go into whatever rooms and get a seat at the table, then I knew I'd be tokenized 100%. So I did talk to people in upper admin, and if I did, it was only here and there. Because I wanted, specifically with my position, I wanted to focus more with my exec and with my general body more than anything. And then now currently, I'm not president anymore, obviously. But now we're in a position where instead of, students not having to talk to admin and whatnot and focusing on the community itself. Now upper admin are inviting students to come to be a part of the room. And that's nice, but instead it should be the other way around, like I mentioned before, where the folks who make decisions come to us as a community, not having to backtrack every other week about whatever decision that they had made because us as a community said we don't like that. No, it needs to be proactive rather than reactive.
That's that key right there. Proactive instead of reactive. And I just want to mention, I think, Brandon Hawley, his comment about talking about how students would have to pay for their own tests if they don't have insurance at $50 per test, but put into the general local stats. Well, I think I did recently hear that about students. I knew that you had to, I remember in the return to campus plan that you had to provide your own mask.
If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that classrooms should be equipped with masks as well. Hopefully the information I'm saying is correct. I don't want to be.
Right, feel free to correct this, Dr. Miller.
Yeah, feel free to correct
right.
me and say that fella's lying. But I hope everything that we're saying is valid about masks.
Yeah, Kyel and Tyler, I'll jump in if I've got a concern. But yeah, I mean, we'll have masks in the rooms in case someone forgets. We are hoping people will bring them. Also, some people will be particular about what they want, what type of mask and things like that. So we also know that will be a choice for some people. We'll have them. We're also going to have masks at our food pantry for students that don't have the financial ability to buy their own masks. So we'll have masks there as well. So students that struggle with food and other type of insecurity will be able to get masks for free from the food pantry as well.
Right. Good to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And I think I wanted to, they had mentioned a question from the Facebook asking, as student org leaders, what are you all thinking for community building for student organizations, the ones you're leading, and what can you recommend to others to support org missions with COVID and racial injustices in mind?
Okay, regarding COVID, just don't be in the public as much as you can. That's honestly the best advice I can give. Like quarantine as much as you can. The data we got is very unreliable nowadays. So like I'm perceiving that data as in Corona is at an all-time high. That's how I perceive it, point blank, point period. And there's if I don't got to be outside, I'm not going to be outside. If I do have to be outside, you will probably see me. You will see me with a mask, and wherever in my vehicle, I always have hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes equipped. And if you're gonna be in the public, like if you walking around campus with your book bag, I hope you got some Clorox wipes in there. I really do. Because I don't. If we're gonna be frank and honest, I don't trust a lot of people at JMU because I've seen how JMU cough, sneeze, and everything in between. And there was a whole reason we had a mumps outbreak. Like, I hope this goes better than that. I certainly do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Definitely having to take the proper precautions. If I don't have to go, if I don't have to leave, I'm gonna just stay. And in terms of, for the first part of the question, what are you all thinking for community building for student organizations? I guess just to touch back on, because I know for me personally, like in terms of still planning for how on-campus events could go in terms of utilizing open area spaces like Hillside Field or I'm blanking on campus, but or just utilizing platforms such as Zoom, and still being able to meet as DVM and log on as well. But.
And I'm not on an exec board anymore. And I really did think I'd be able to kick my feet up and not do diddly squat anymore. But as in terms of organizations and whatnot and what they're doing, like I'm going to post about it. I'll let it be known through my own avenues. I think one of the most important things for students to do is to let that be known. Let whatever events are happening be known. Hello, hello. Can y'all hear me? Did your Zoom kick you off as well?
Yeah, the power flickering all the way.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Let me get up out of here, somebody, real quick.
Yeah, earlier when the power went off, at least for me, it was off for like, I don't know. I had enough time to take a nap.
I know I did go out earlier for a while.
Yeah, sorry. Did we lose everybody?
And so I think people are coming back on as it's unfree.
Sorry, the transformer above my house exploded.
Oh.
I just heard a huge boom like 2 minutes ago. So I think I was the host, so I think I'm the reason why it went away. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Our power was looking around here as well.
No.
Kyel, the last thing I heard you talk about was how you were going to kick your feet up. Was the last thing I heard.
I thank you for that, because I remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, I was so ready to speak up after not being president anymore. But I think I was saying something along the lines of making sure that I spread information about organizations, events, programs, anything that the organizations are doing on my own account. I think that's something that's beyond pertinent specifically within the Black community at JMU, is spreading information, letting the information be known. Because if I know I have the availability to help out with something, that I probably will, especially now more than ever. And so I'm committed to doing that. We're going to have more students be committed to doing that, not just student orgs. And I'm not saying, oh, it's solely students' responsibility to be able to do this, but it shouldn't just be organizations' responsibility to do things. As an entire community, it has to be organizations and individuals having a shared responsibility. 100%, or else the community is not going to be what we intend for it to be.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like the individuals, make up the organizations themselves, and it's like, so there's just as much power in it as well.
Oh yeah, I do think a lot of individuals don't necessarily say, hey, let me influence all of these things that happen within my community, within my university, within even the world. But I'm sure as hell believe that anybody can change the world. Anybody can help me change. I didn't plan on being president. In fact, if we're going to be 100% honest, I'm going to publicly be known now, but I didn't intend on being president. That was not my goal. And now that I'm no longer president, I still believe I should fight the same issues I fought as when I was president. And it's the same issues I fought when I was secretary before that. It doesn't necessarily die out just because someone was in a position. Individuals have just as much influence as any president, any vice president, or anything. me as a student has as much influence as any person that's a faculty member or an administrator or a board of visitor or a donor, whoever they may be. 100%.
I definitely feel that. And you know, and if anybody else has any examples, I just want to ask you, Kyel, like if you knew any other ways that people can, you know, make the effort to make an impact in your community, whether it be Harrisonburg, your own community, or JMU community as well. And if anybody else has any examples as well, you can input them in the chat. Or
Was that a question?
yeah, if you had, and if you knew of any other ways, I know a popular way is, you know, getting involved with student organizations and you know, putting the work into the service into your organization, as well as like if you knew of any other ways to impact your community.
Oh yeah. Over
Yes,
here.
guys, and vote. Yes, register, please.
It's the easiest thing to do. Out of anything to do, the easiest thing to do is vote. But like I said, that's the easiest. There's so many more things people can do. One of the most important things is be informed about what's happening in your communities. And there was a Tuesday night, the last Tuesday night live I was on was with Samantha Hinton and Mayor Dina Reed. And in that, Mayor Reed was talking about how a lot of JMU students don't necessarily come to what I just forgot the name of the can't think of what it's called all of a sudden. The
City Council.
Thank you. I was struggling. I was thinking, I was just with civic engagement, so that's the only word that was in my mind. Yeah, but with the city council, a lot of students don't show their faces there. And you know, we're just as much part of the Harrisonburg community as anybody else. And so the important thing to do as students, as whoever you are, is to understand what's going on in your local government. Understanding what's going on might affect anybody that is like you or people that aren't even like you, because that's the fact of the matter. If it doesn't affect you, then it probably affects someone else. And if you really want to see change, then you can't just do it just at your university. You can't just do it in your community. It's anything that you're a part of, you can make an influence with 100%. You can 100% do that.
Definitely. Yeah, especially I think there is like a bit disconnect between, or there can be between JMU and the Harrisonburg community. I think a lot of times, you know, I go to JMU, but then it's like JMU is part of the larger Harrisonburg community. And I think, yeah, I feel like a lot of people definitely we can work as well to, you know, promote those ways in which individuals can get involved in with the Harrisonburg City, getting involved with that as well, especially with the JMU Center for Civic Engagement and the Student Government Association. Definitely using your voices as well through there.
Oh yeah, like just spitballing here, but how cool would it be to see a bunch of Black and brown students engaging with City Council in Harrisonburg, you know, making change in Harrisonburg.
Right.
That does also affect JMU as well. That'd be dope. That would just be dope.
Right. I think yes. Oh, and I think Rodrigo Morales, he had mentioned. Oh, he was jumping back to when we were talking about student org leaders. I think he said right now is a trying time, especially for student org leaders, to try and figure out what to do in order to keep members engaged and also to keep everyone safe. It looks like Zoom might be a prominent platform, but I think it's important to just be understanding and figure it out a step at a time. I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
But yes, so this was awesome. This was a great talk. I want to just thank you, Kyel, for allowing me to ask these questions and be a part of this conversation, as well as you all for your participation and willingness to find out more ways that you can make a difference and empower your own voice. And if Kyel, if you have anything to add.
I'm trying to think about anything else aside from like, I guess like closing comments. Um, One thing I do want to mention, we talked about it earlier. It was about the specific implementation of gradualism at universities, and I just wanted to reiterate that because that was pre-break. I don't know what to call it. Pre the Zoom meeting dropping. But making sure that that we aren't, as students, we're seen as equals at the table, and we're just as valuable as any other proponent at JMU. We're not necessarily being invited to a room to have someone in the room, and that be all. No, that's not enough. And the same way that we're constantly being invited to another room, to another room, to another room. That gets old, 100%. I don't want to be having this exact same conversation next year. I don't. I really don't. If a university is going to stand by students, then it's going to make it happen. It is. Nothing in between. And like the people before me were passed on the same issues that we're dealing with right now, are feeling the same exhaustion that we're feeling right now. Like, and we're going to be frank with it. Ariel passed it to Mecca. Mecca passed it to Jasmine. Jasmine passed it to me, and now I'm passing it to you. To step into this position where you're the president of the Black Student Alliance, and you have to you don't necessarily take on the weight of the issues of the Black Student Alliance, but of the Black students, but the BSA has history. The BSA has moolah, and the BSA also has its namesake. So for that to be at JMU is to come also with any sort of issues that the organizations dealt with at the university, which has led to exhaustion. It was exactly why I was somewhat giddy to leave the position. It was the same reason that other Black student leaders were giddy to leave their positions. It's the same exhaustion happening over and over again. But a lot of student leaders aren't at JMU long enough to see the issue because they're only here for 4 years, so they spend their entire undergrad being exhausted, and then don't even connect back with JMU. That's what, like, why don't we see Black alumni in bulk from like 3 years ago? It's because they were in the same positions that we were, and they became exhausted, and so they don't come back to the university to help engage and support or any of that, like they should. And granted, we have the Black alumni chapter, but that is not as thorough as we want it to be. It's not, and we can all say that with certainty. It can be bigger than what it is, and it is, like I said, Black students go through the same process every 4 years of dealing with the same exact issues that their predecessor dealt with. And then me leaving my position, giving it to you, is now you're going to be dealing with those same issues that I was dealing with as president. And that's a systemic issue. And that's why I said I don't want to be having this conversation a year from now. There's no reason a similar conversation like the one we're having should be had. And this has been happening years and years and years. And it can easily be done. It can easily be done. It can easily be stopped. So that's the last thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because and I'll end it like on this quote from like Maya Angelou, and it's, if you're for the right thing, you do it without thinking.
Exactly.
I'm gonna just let this be what's up. But yes. So again, thank you, Kyel, for being part of this conversation. Thank you, Sierra and Dr. Timberland. Thank you all for joining in this conversation and being a part of being the change.